All right, it says that I'm live. Welcome. I'm not going to be here very long, but I wanted to just talk about this for a second because I feel like maybe I was sleepy, or maybe the live was just longer than I wanted it to be, and so perhaps the point got lost a little bit. So the discussion about Kouri Richins, um, the possibility, I'm not saying that it is probable or that's exactly what happened or that I know that that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are some other possibilities, that it's not simply, oh, she was crying for what? For what reason would she be crying? How would you describe it? Because we didn't see her crying or being reactive during the June the 12th hearing. During the June the 12th hearing, she was calm and she was very well put together. And even in the face of hearing the sister-in-law's address, basically saying she was planning on murdering her own children, she didn't get just emotional. You didn't see her affect change at all. She was very focused and just kind of restricted affect. It was the exact same presentation as her time on the television program, on the television show where she's talking about the book that she claims she wrote, but she didn't. She hired a ghostwriter to do it. Even during that meeting, her affect is very restricted. There's not a lot of change emotionally on what you see on her face. She doesn't tend to have a reaction when others are talking to her. She's very closed off and shut down. That seems to be her baseline. And when I saw her 5 days ago in the hearing, it was so different than what we've seen before. And everybody said, oh, she was crying. She must have been upset about not getting bail, but she pretty well knew that that's what it was going to be. When you look a little bit closer, though, then you begin to see those telltale marks of a physiological change that is so common to opiate withdrawal. And that is, the red that gathers, it's like they have a really bad cold, right? So stuffy nose, wiping their nose, sneezing, lots of yawning is common. So their eyes are like super watery. Their eyes are just like tears, just not sobs, but tears are rolling. So they got a tissue and they're constantly dabbing, at their eyes. And a lot of crying. The emotional upheaval of withdrawal from opiates is real. And so, I'm just making commentary based on my experiences in life and the things that I know. And I just thought, watching her, I thought, gosh, she looks like she might have been also dabbling in the opiate world. Now, there was some there were some comments that were saying that she would have been over withdrawals. Have you been through withdrawals? That's why I said, if there's people that have worked in detox or rehab, there is an early period, what we call the acute phase of withdrawal, where you get the most dramatic symptoms. And yes, it is true. With long-acting opioids, you may not even begin to have withdrawal symptoms till 3 days after your last dose. And then the acute period can last as long as 20, 30, sometimes even 40 days, depending on how it's been managed medically. Short acting, at 3 or 4 days, your symptoms are peaking, but then it's just a slow decline after that. I have seen before people say, oh, you'll be out of it in a week. If that's what you expect, you're going to fail the withdrawal stage. Yes, after a week, the most acute, difficult symptoms will be backing off and be better, but you are going to be plagued a long time by poor sleep. And poor sleep takes a real toll on you emotionally. Even if you're provided medication to help you sleep, you're still going to be dealing with depression and anxiety on a level that you've probably never experienced before. So it is a lifestyle to get clean from opiates and to stay clean. And people that have an illusion that they can take opioids for 10, 15 years every single day, exceeding the daily recommended dose, that they're gonna peak in 3 days and then they're gonna be clean in a week. Those people aren't gonna make it, because they're gonna be 2-3 months in and they're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm never feeling better. I'm supposed to be over this already. No, you've got a year. There's a year of protracted withdrawals. And during that year, you can have periods of time where suddenly all of the anxiety kicks back in and you're like, golly, I thought I left this behind. Where did this come from? And then it comes back. Okay. So being very realistic about what we're talking about, OxyContin is a slow onset medication that stays in the body for a long time. It's got a long half-life. And the withdrawals from OxyContin, it can take as much as 15, 20 days. Like I said, depending on how long have you been taking it, what was the dose that you were taking during that period of time, what about your own physical condition? Are you overweight? Do you work out? All of these things can cause that long-acting opioid to stay in your body longer, which will then also lead to a prolonged withdrawal phase. So I do think, especially if she was on a really high dose, they would not have taken the chance of completely cutting her off because of the medical risk from withdrawing from high dose, long acting opioids. They probably would have tried to taper down a little bit using a much less potent opioid, finally moving her over to something like methadone or Suboxone. But she still if you cut that opioid cut the opioid dose in half, you're going to get vomiting and nausea, diarrhea, just not to the violent level that you get if you just cold turkey. So I don't know. I think it's a possibility that she might have known drug dealers, known how to get her hands on this medication because maybe she was using it. That's what I think. I don't know why this topic is so divisive or why it causes so much passion. Part of me wonders, is it related to the problem of treatment for chronic pain? I think opioids are highly political because of the backlash against the pill mills and the online purchase of opiate pain medication. There was a severe backlash, and now the pendulum is sort of swinging back, to the middle. So I am actually an advocate for chronic pain patients to have access to these medications. I've worked with people before that were having their pain well managed. There was no addictive type behavior happening, and they, were given back their life by being able to have access to these medications. So I also know that there are people that have really ruined access to these effective medications because they have an addictive personality and they could not manage the medication. That's a different problem. I'm not pointing my finger saying anybody's a bad person or, nothing like that. I'm just having a conversation about reality. And the reality is, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and go, gosh, wonder where I can pick me up a little fentanyl, or wonder how to buy hydrocodone off the streets. That I don't have any use to know that. I don't have any, there would be no reason for me to know that. And the real reason that I even really brought this up was the idea of, why did she feel so free to ask her house sitter keeper, how do I get fentanyl, or how do I get? I think originally she got did she originally get hydrocodone? Is that Tiffany Guzman? Welcome. Yes, isn't it beautiful? The whole community really helps me with all my stuff, so I'm grateful. Your grandson created your name. I'll never forget that conversation with Gray Hughes and the way he says your name every time. I can't just assume she took opioids unless we know. It's possible we don't know. Flat affect for sure. No, I agreed 100%, Meezer Mom. But I also think, see, this is the problem with what we do on YouTube. We're not officers of the court. We're not investigators, or well, some of them are, but no, we don't have those facts. And the only way we would have those facts is if they get reported in court documents, correct? And this is the type of fact that would not get reported in court documents because of HIPAA. So what we do, this is my interpretation, my thoughts. Doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean everybody thinks about it. This is the way I think of it. That some of us have training or background education, employment experiences, training experiences. Some of us have how do I want to say this? Some of us have some experiences that might make it easy, not easy, but might give us some additional thoughts to consider while we're talking about some of these crimes. There is a guy on YouTube that has a channel, and he was in the penitentiary for like 15, 20 years. He was in the penitentiary a long time. And so he is now out. He started his own business, but he does a channel. And what he talks about on his channel is what it's like to be in the penitentiary. What are the people like that are there? How does the community and the culture develop around different ideas, like gangs and or social groups? And so he had some opinions and some insight related to Chris Watts, and how Chris might be received based on the fact that he killed 2 little kids, which is not something that a lot of inmates will accept. So that's what I mean by people can have life experiences or certain types of training. Like I came out and I said, look, I don't think, like I'm almost sure that this letter coming from Washington State University that Brian Koberger put him on a rehab plan the first semester, and that they got rid of him 6 weeks later and fired him. And I said, that's not the way it works. And the reason I know that's not the way it works is because I worked for the university, been a professor. These students have due process, and it with the HIPAA or with the laws that are designed for privacy and education. FERPA is very real about safeguards and what the legal process is for, being able to fire somebody that's got an assistantship. So it just didn't ring true. And I called it out, and everybody was like, "Oh, we're mad at you. How dare you say that?" And well, now we know. The lady came out and said it wasn't true. I'm the one that put the story out there. I'm the one that did the letter, and it's not true. We know that he was going back, to go back and teach again and be in college. So people that work in university could have heard that letter and seen it and called it out and said, this is not consistent with what I know about FERPA and universities and the way they manage due process with students. This is not consistent. If it is real, it's highly irregular. And that's what I did. And people got mad about that. And now I'm commenting on, she does have that appearance that is fairly standard for people that are in opiate withdrawal. Her skin tone and demeanor and whatnot. And she does kind of seem like maybe she is. Doesn't mean she is. It doesn't mean I know all. It doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. None of that. I'm just making an observation that might be interesting to consider, or it might not be interesting to consider. That's up to you. So, all right. Hand injuries are so painful. The nerves can radiate pain all the way up the arm, strength and healing to you. Who's got a hand problem? Tiffany has a new granddaughter. Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations. Yay. Love little children. All right. Hey, Archie. I had the same thoughts about her possibly withdrawing. A hot mic caught her telling her attorney she's not going to make it. There you go. That's a thought. Why not? What's happening that you feel like you're not going to make it? Maybe she's nauseated. You don't know. Thank you, Archie. I'm grateful. I don't know what it is. I seem to be a little controversial, but I don't know why, because I don't feel like I am at all. Which I guess is what all controversial people think, isn't it? I put a video that I think is, what do you mean Plunder caught it? Anyway, I put a video up that I think is just kind of boring, and and people get mad. Very strange to me. Let's see what Plunder's got. Oh, do you mean that she caught Kouri saying, I don't think I'm going to make it? I think that's what you're talking. Did somebody else comment on the possibility that maybe she was in withdrawals? Ooh, blissful elixir. That is salty. You're being catty. She enhanced the statement, and you can actually hear her say it after her bell was set. There you go, Archie. She caught the hot mic moment. Yeah. Hey, much endeavors. Yeah. I thought it was very interesting in the Brian Koberger hearing that Judge Jerry, as I call him, Judge, um, that he said, don't try to focus in on desktops of the attorneys. Don't just stare at the defendant, and don't try to catch hot mic moments, and we'll keep the cameras in the courtroom. Don't try, don't have court TV. Don't try to have a gotcha moment, because I'm going to take the cameras out if you mess up at all. But as long as you play fair and you're just trying to broadcast the whole courtroom, then we'll have cameras. So I've got my fingers crossed that we don't try to, make history. Sorry. That we don't try to make history and lose access, because I really, really want to see this this case. Look, I feel a little misled. I went back and I reread the original arrest affidavit and then the warrants, right? And reading the original arrest affidavit in a very focused and discerning manner, that doesn't match what we have now been told by the defense. And I think, how is that possible? Like, how is it possible that we are presented one bit of... Now, I will say this, what I noticed with going back and rereading the arrest affidavit, somebody really wants to talk to me. No, I'm not talking. Going back and reading the arrest affidavit with, carefully, I can see where I was a bit misled. My ADHD kicked in, and I was a little bit misled by, we would think, right? Like they'd say, blah, 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 blah. And we would think, yada, yada, yada. And there was a lot more of that in the arrest affidavit than there actually was fact. So comparing that to what this defense attorney, Ann, is actually saying she has, I'm kind of sitting back left thinking, what the hell were you thinking? Like, what's going on? And the only thing I can think is maybe they do have more, and this is a game. I just don't know. I watched Peter Tragos. I guess it was a little while this morning. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, only about 20 minutes or so. And it seemed, his take, the part that I was listening to, he said, if you're an attorney, you really don't want to be caught lying about what you have received in discovery or not. But at the same time that you accept, no, she must be telling the truth, because it would be a bad thing to be unveiled, as a liar. But did the prosecution lie? Did they mislead? And I don't know. It is become, this Koberger case has gotten very weird. And part of you has to wonder, is this because he made this a game? That he did this on purpose? It's definitely a question. So it has gotten very strange. It's a very uncomfortable case. People have drawn up sides. If I was one of these four families, I would be on pins and needles right now. This process has not inspired confidence. I think that's going to be my last word on it as of today. This prosecutor, after seeing the documents that were put out by the defense, it does not inspire confidence in any part, either defense or prosecution. You just kind of left with this idea of somebody's lying. Who is it? We don't know. All right. If she's a drug user, do you think the defense will use it to their advantage? Maybe, maybe that's probably a better question for Peter Tragos, right? Um, oh, Abby Lee, what a pretty name. That's so wonderful, Tiffany. Congratulations. Um, use it to her advantage. I don't know how she would use it to her advantage. She would she couldn't get away with saying that she was not competent to stand trial to give to aid in her own defense. That wouldn't fly. Um, they can't use drugs for that. Um, maybe you could try to make the argument that it was an accident, that maybe she made two Moscow mules. One was for her and she put her drugs in it to drink. I don't know. That'd be weird. I don't know. I don't know. But my answer is officially, I don't know. Hey, critters. Good to see you. Pretty broadcasting room. Love the lighting. Thank you. See my tutu. I love the white components. Here's my keyboard. Isn't it pretty? It's kind of silver on the top, but it's white on the bottom. Yes, I love my white components. It is really, it is very feminine. It's nice as opposed to all the black components that we usually see, right? Kouri has had suicidal thoughts. A history of suicidal ideation, or right now, like when she's in jail? Thank you, Tessie Cooper. But I love the new. This is new from Quadcast, and it is 100% win. It's a great microphone. I love it. Oh, Koberger has had suicidal thoughts. Koberger's got a lot. If we are to believe his post that he made on the visual snow discussion board, even talking to people that knew him in high school, he's got a lot of mental health stuff. A lot. I'm thinking that I want to get the wallpaper, or the removable wallpaper. It's got the really big giant flowers. I'm thinking about putting that on my wall and getting rid of the whole island theme, but I don't know. Haven't decided yet. It's a little bit busy back there, right? It's a little too much, I think. But thank you, Tessie. Um, all right. So I'm not trying to make anyone mad. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, critters. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of streamline what I had said night before last and last night about a possibility, not the fact. It's a potential possibility that perhaps she was using opiates, and that's how she knew how to get fentanyl. And, I find it fascinating that the CL, the housekeeper, they turned so quickly on her. And I think she's surprised by that, which would say maybe she had been buying from them for a long time. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm not trying to put Kouri in a bad light. None of that. Look, addiction is real in this country and other countries around the world, but addiction is real. There's no shame in it. You just get treatment, and then you do better. Life is easier when you're not, needing a certain substance. Um, what I'm saying is to try to understand how someone who seems to be living this pristine, wonderful upper middle class or upper class lifestyle, how in the world does she get her hands on fentanyl? How are we so certain she did it if she doesn't even know where to get it from? That was the whole point of me saying maybe she's using, and that's why she had confidence asking for the fentanyl. That's all I'm saying. That's it. She was in a shady crowd to have such connections. Jumping back and forth from Koberger to Lutish? Oh, okay. So originally at the beginning of this video, I'm talking about Kouri, right? Richins, and the whole was she using opiates question. Then somebody brought up Koberger. And so I changed and I talked a moment about Koberger, but now I'm back on Kouri. All right. Yes. All right. Hey, John Miller. Fentanyl is like candy over there. I've heard that this is an area of the country that a lot of people are using fentanyl. We still don't have a lot here. I mean, it's definitely here, but not like we've got other drugs that are a bigger problem than fentanyl in the greater Houston area. But I did hear that they're having a lot of trouble in Idaho, Utah, that's kind of one of the drugs of choice in that area. If you're up in West Virginia, there's a lot of heroin. Like West Virginia is floating in heroin. So that's another thing that's very interesting is how different parts of the country seem to attract different types of drugs. It's really, really kind of interesting. Hybrid Pisces, welcome, my friend. How you doing? Fentanyl is a huge problem in Ottawa. There you go. Yeah, I do think that is interesting. I'm going to be doing a video later today. I'm going to be doing a video on Jordan Peterson. Well, not on Jordan Peterson, but on an interview that Jordan Peterson did to talk a little bit about why we have gotten so divided as a culture. That's probably going to alienate a few people. I hate that. I wish it wouldn't. I wish people could just have discussions. I don't know why people have to be, you have to believe my way or I can't speak to you. Don't do that. That's not fun. All right. I'm so terrified of opiates that even after having a C-section with my 2 sons, I refused opiates and opted for ibuprofen. They scare me to bits. A lot of people are afraid. And Callie, a lot of people that have a history of addiction or abuse of opiates, even after surgery, their pain is treated differently. Opiates are probably the most effective pain reliever. But if you've had addiction before, like you said, people are like, not no, but hell no. Don't want to go back through that nightmare. So it is a good thing to know that they have found alternative ways to treat acute pain. So, and you're one of those examples that, it can be treated without the opiates. So, all right. I love Jordan Peterson too. But he sure makes me mad sometimes, but he's pretty brilliant guy at the same time. He is controversial for real. I used fentanyl patches on my wrist and arms until I found out the dangers back in the 2010s. Yeah, it's not a little light drug for sure. So, all right. I got to go. All right. I've got some more work this afternoon. So I just wanted to kind of stop and kind of clear up a little bit the whole point of the whole asking the question, is it possible that Kouri Richins may have been using opiates, and that is in fact how it is that it came to pass that she could get her hands on the fentanyl that ultimately killed Eric. All right. Okay. Y'all have a wonderful day. I'll see you later.